This is going for a Jewish audience or for what?
I'm putting it on the internet. Whoever wants to look at it, you know, so because the press,
right,
they write what they want people to say, right?
Right.
Right. So this is, they made their own statement themselves, and people can decide whatever they want. It's just that I'm giving them a voice.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, whenever it's good for you.
I'm ready. Oh.
Yeah.
Shalom, my name is Nadia Matar. I am co-chair of Women in Green. Women in Green is an organization that exists for over 13 years since the horrendous Oslo agreements were signed. Our organization basically says a very clear message that the land of Israel belongs to the people of Israel. Based on the Torah of Israel, God gave this land to the Jewish people, and nobody has the right to give it away, even not Ariel Sharon. This land belongs to the present, past, and future generations of the Jewish people. About what has been happening in Gush Katif, I would like to know how the American people would have reacted if President Bush, a couple of weeks after 9/11, would have announced to the nation that in order to find some kind of modus vivendi, it is important to find a modus vivendi with Al-Qaeda, and therefore I, President Bush, have decided to give away Manhattan or Brooklyn to Al-Qaeda, and all American people are asked to leave by August 2005. Anybody who leaves willingly will receive compensation, and anybody who does not leave willingly, the American army is training to take away the Americans who are staying in their homes by force. All churches and synagogues will be turned into mosques, etc., etc. I think the American people would react by saying that our president has gone nuts. This is unacceptable. Of course, we will not ever let this happen. We cannot reward terror. We cannot give our homeland to people who want to destroy us, etc. And that is exactly what happened here in Israel. Our Prime Minister has not only given away parts of our homeland, our biblical homeland, because Gaza is part of our biblical homeland, to the Arab enemy, which is in itself a crime, because this land belongs to us. But in addition, he basically has rewarded Arab terror. Listen to this. Just picture yourself. Tali Khatuel, a woman who used to live in Gush Katif, was driving a couple months ago in her car with her 4 daughters, strapped, as it is by law, driving from Gush Katif to Ashkelon. She's pregnant in her 8th month. She's driving on the road between Gush Katif and Ashkelon, and to the exit of Gush Katif, Arab terrorists shoot her in the head. She gets a bullet in the head, she dies immediately. Picture yourself that situation. You see this Jewish mother dead on the wheel. The 4 daughters in the car are still alive, and there come those Arab terrorists closer and closer to the car. And like Nazis, because there's no other way to describe it, shoot the 4 little girls in the head, one after the other. The mother is dead, the pregnant mother is dead, the 4 daughters are dead. The people who killed her, the Arab murderers who murdered the Tali Khatuel family, are going to receive now, thanks to Ariel Sharon, her house, and are going to dance on the Khatuel family's house. There is nothing more vile, there is nothing more anti-moral, there is nothing more disgusting than the thought of such a thought. And it's not only of the Khatuel family, it is over 1,000 Jews who were butchered and murdered by Arabs, and those Arabs are not going to be rewarded by Ariel Sharon. In fact, we can say that Ariel Sharon has become the executive arm of the Hamas. He is the one implementing the Hamas platform of destroying Jewish communities and handing over our homeland to the Arab enemy. There's nothing more horrendous. We unfortunately have not stopped this tragedy, this crime. What we are saying now is we have to learn from our mistakes that we have done. Jewish people basically did not believe it really would happen. Most of the activists thought that at some point before the decree it will stop. Most people thought that it would be enough to stay home and pray, which we learned that it was not enough. Praying is very important, but we also need to fight. And now the lessons that we have learned from this crime is, number one, we have to bring down the Sharon government. We have to punish all politicians by sending them home. Anybody who dirtied his hand in this crime, because this is a crime, has to go home, has to be replaced. We have to now also prevent from happening again, because this might, God forbid, be the beginning of the end of the State of Israel, and we are going to do all in our power that from now on such a crime will not happen again. In English, I'm sure that the Hebrews will not, the Hebrew press will not push it anyway.
Yeah. It's been said that because there was only 8,000 to 10,000 Jews there and 1.2 million so-called Palestinians, that strategically, from a military point of view, it's not, and from a, quote, ethical point of view, it's not fair to put the IDF in a position to protect, and it's not necessary have these people there. How would you respond to that?
Gaza is a microcosm of Israel. People who are trying to tell us that we didn't need Jewish towns in the Gaza Strip because there's so many Arabs around should look at a map and look at the map of the Middle East, looking at the Jewish community in Gaza, and then look at the State of Israel with the surrounding Arab countries. It is exactly the same. If you ask us why we should be, in fact, there shouldn't be Jewish communities in Gaza because there's many Arabs around, then you have to continue your thought and say, in fact, we shouldn't have the State of Israel because there's so many Arab countries around. It is true, we are surrounded by millions of Arabs. In fact, we have to remember, a very good way of remembering the map of the Middle East is thinking that this is really a big football field. And on that that is the entire Arab world of the Middle East. And on that football field, you have a little box of matches. That is the State of Israel. And we have to understand that the Arabs are not interested in, they're telling us, we only want half of the box of matches and then we'll be happy. We only want a part of that. It's not true. They want to kick away the little box of matches so that they would have an entire football field of Arab Islam. And people, the same with the Gaza Strip, they say, we just want the Gush Katif and the Shomron. That's not true. They want to destroy the entire State of Israel. The Arabs don't care about this or that settlement. They don't care about Gush Katif or the Shomron. The Arabs care about one settlement only, called the State of Israel. And no matter what boundaries we were in, whether it was before 48 or after 48, before 67, whether we were in Judea, Samaria, and Gaza, when we were out of Judea and Samaria, there was always Arab terror against us. Because the Arabs cannot stand any Jewish presence in the land of Israel. So let's make a switch in our head and understand that the Arabs want to destroy all of Israel, no matter what boundaries we are in, and that is just their first step for their main course. Their main course is the graffiti that you see all over the PA, the Palestinian Authority. First the Saturday people, then the Sunday people. First let's get rid of the Jews, then let's get rid of the Christians. That is the real war that is going on here on our land. The Arabs, this is a war of Islam against the Judeo-Christian civilization, against the Jews and the Christians. And that is why we were trying to explain that if Ariel Sharon goes ahead with this plan, we are predicting now an incredible wave of terror all over Europe and the United States, because this gave a boost to Al-Qaeda, and they said, hey, it works. If Ariel Sharon capitulates to terror, then I'm sure that President Bush and Jacques Chirac and all the leaders in Europe will also capitulate to terror. This is the real war that is taking place. It is not a war for this or that settlement. It is a war of Islam against the Judeo and Christian civilization, against Western civilization. And that is it.
A number of people from the religious community have rationalized what has happened in terms of nothing happens unless God allows it to happen. Since this happened, it must have been in God's plan. How would you respond to that?
I think that it is people who are trying to find comfort. I'm sorry, hold on, turning this. What was the question? Yes, okay. I think that this is a very easy way for Jews to console themselves and explain the fact that they didn't do enough. God wanted it to happen, and therefore there's nothing we could do. I personally think that maybe, nobody knows what God really thinks, but maybe God is dafka very angry that after he gave us back our homeland in 67, we so easily abandoned it, and he might be furious at us for not coming out in masses, furious at all the rabbis for not calling for a clear order of refusal of order, for not arranging the masses in Kfar Maimon to burst through the fences. Maybe God is looking and saying, how dare you not have done such a thing? And maybe because you didn't burst through in Kfar Maimon, then I let it happen. Why didn't, all this of course is we cannot know what God wants. We just know what God told us in the Torah. God told us that we're not allowed to give up this homeland and to give it away to the Arab enemy. And I feel that therefore God must be very angry at us that we haven't done enough, that we haven't done enough to protect our biblical Gaza and the Shomron. And I think that the lesson is not God wanted it, therefore there's nothing we could do, but we should now prevent further withdrawals and do what we haven't done, i.e. have a united call of all the rabbis to refuse, to the army, to the soldiers, don't you dare ever take part in this again, and to have a united call to the Jewish people here and abroad, because I must say that the disappointment not only with the Jews here but also abroad, who haven't come, who have not done anything to protest against this, that there should be here 1 million people and prevent this from happening, and to be in favor of nonviolent civil disobedience, etc., to prevent this from happening again, and to even go back. I say, free, we have to have a new slogan, we have to free Gush Katif and the Shomron. It is now going to be under foreign Arab occupation, and we have to free our homeland. Stop the occupation of Gush Katif and the Shomron is a slogan we will have to, now the Jewish people will have to carry, till we go back to liberated Gush Katif and the Shomron.
I've interviewed and documented the treatment by the government after the eviction at the Jerusalem hotel, and I have documented that there has been no representative or from the government or any Jewish organizations.
It's all grassroots.
All grassroots chesed, kindness has been outpouring from the citizens of Israel. But the only thing that the government has done is given a couple bookcases for the children's kindergarten.
Absolutely.
And I'm also told that last night on Arutz 7, Arutz Sheva, that it was mentioned that though the volunteers are providing all these services, that they're going to be prevented from catering to the refugees because they will, quote, interfere with the educational services of the children.
I didn't even hear that.
It has been said by the refugees that so much energy has been expended in the plan as to how to evict the settlers, but nothing has been done as to what to do with them afterwards.
That is the plan. That was the plan.
And I am speaking for you, just speaking for the facts, but this was much different than Yamit. I interviewed a number of people who were at Yamit who were either volunteering or also are currently refugees. They were evicted from Yamit, and then they became asked to settle Gaza, and now they are again evicted. Just like Mr. Sharon broke his promise to the Israeli citizens who elected him on a platform, it appears that he's also broken. The government has not kept any of their promises to these current refugees. How would you respond to my statements?
First of all, I completely agree with your statement, but one has to understand why. And it is not out of Shlomi Eliot, how do you say that in English? Hold on.
incompetence.
Yes, the government is not taking care of the refugees, not because of incompetence or that they forgot. It is a plan. The plan of Ariel Sharon was from the beginning to make sure that every family would be crushed financially and emotionally and would not be able, that the refugees will not be able to rise up again as communities. And that is where the naivete of our national camp comes in. People have complaints now, how come they're not taking care of us? It's terrible. What kind of incompetence? It is not incompetence. It is evil and wickedness from the Sharon government to make sure that those communities do not rise up again. And why? Because the real plan behind the disengagement is, of course, one and only reason is that Ariel Sharon, together with the Oslo criminals, Shimon Peres and Yossi Beilin, are planning to make sure that the national camp get crushed. How do you crush the national camp? Why do they want to crush us? Because we are the futures. We are the one, we have the many children. We educate them with the love of the land, the love of the Torah, the love of Jewish culture. We are going to take over this land, this country very soon. We're going to be the majority in the army, etc., etc. The left, who is becoming the minority, is in a panic. We're going to lose power. Let's crush the national camp. How do you crush the national camp? You destroy their communities. That is the real plan afterwards. And then, of course, when you destroy their communities, you make sure they don't rise up again. When they're refugees, you make sure to crush each family and that they do not rise up against as communities, and that they should be scattered all over the country, mourning and depressed and crushed. That is the explanation why the government has not done anything to help the refugees. And if we understand that plan, then we have to understand how much more we have to work to make sure, Dafka, that those Jews will stay as a community and will rise up against as a Gush Katif block somewhere in the country, so that they should be ready to come back again to Gush Katif when we will free it.
Okay, and finally, in summary, although many people are sympathetic, that not everybody can just hop on a plane to come and be in a protest and so forth. What physical action can anybody do, either within Israel or outside of Israel, in terms of, is there a website that you have, or other websites, or could they send donations? You have an address, phone number, any of that kind of thing? Should they contact their American representatives and state their opinion?
Definitely,
Yes.
definitely. People abroad, of course, have to contact their congressman and the representative and have an outcry. First of all, that there is here a plan to capitulate to terror that will boomerang against you also. Many people are talking about this punishment from God. It's called Katrina. I will not, everybody can have their own opinion about that. And of course, we all have to make sure to prevent the next capitulation of the Jewish people. So what can you do? Contact your representative. When you say not everybody can hop on a plane, that is true, but everybody can. Every congregation, every Jewish community could have organized a very big demonstration in front of the Israeli embassies, which had not been done, to protest. And let me make clear that I believe that had it been the opposite, and had there been a right-wing prime minister in Israel, and had he planned a plan, exactly the same disengagement plan, but against 25 Arab communities, I am sure that there would have been an outroar, a roar all around the world. But when we're talking about Jews, everybody stays home and schweigs. So yes, contacting congressmen, demonstrating in front of the Israeli embassy, or contacting them and bombarding them with faxes and phone calls, sending donations to the proper organizations that are helping the refugees.
Which would be?
There is one called the Man Achai, which I do not know what they are.
I have the information.
Okay.
Yes.
We in Women in Green, we also are now going to help the refugees. Our website is www.womeningreen.org. And we are also helping to rebuild a true Jewish leadership, helping to bring down this government. That is more for the people, of course, who live here, getting reorganized and continuing, not giving up hope. We lost one battle, but we didn't lose the war. We lost a part of our homeland, but we cannot now be depressed and think that the rest will go easily. At the contrary, we have to keep the rest and make sure we free again Gush Katif and the Shomron, and being optimistic. An optimist is somebody says the situation today is horrendous, it is difficult, but with God's help, if we get organized, we can overturn the decree. So my message is, God gave this land to the Jewish people. We have no right to give it away. Some corrupt politician called Ariel Sharon, with the help, unfortunately, of some other people, has done it. We have to bring him down, send him back home to his sheep in his farm. We cannot be Ariel Sharon's sheep anymore. And if we get organized properly, we will be able to save the rest of the country, please God, and go back to Gush Katif and the Shomron.
I'll make my final statement.
Yes.
In the Parsha of last week, Parsha Re'eh, there was one of the Pesukim said, when your brother is poor and needy, you should go out and you should try to help him.
Right.
Okay, I thank you very much.
Shalom, shalom.